Why are youth protests becoming a significant force in shaping Africa's political landscape? In recent years, the African continent has witnessed a surge in youth-led protests that have not only challenged the status quo, but have also played a crucial role in reshaping the political dynamics of many nations. The energy, resilience, and determination of Africa's youth are increasingly becoming the driving force behind these movements, signaling a shift in the continent's political fabric. Africa is a continent with a predominantly young population. More than 60% of its people are under the age of 25, making it one of the youngest populations in the world. This demographic reality presents both an opportunity and a challenge. On one hand, it represents a significant potential for economic growth and development. On the other hand, it highlights the pressing need for inclusive and responsive governance that addresses the aspirations of this young and dynamic population. However, for many years, the voices of Africa's youth have been largely marginalized in the political process. Traditional political systems, often dominated by older generations, have failed to engage with the concerns and aspirations of young people, leading to growing frustration and disillusionment. Youth protests in Africa are not a new phenomenon. Historically, they have played a pivotal role in the fight against colonialism and apartheid. However, the nature and dynamics of youth protests in the contemporary era have evolved. Today's youth are more connected, more informed, and more determined to hold their leaders accountable. The rise of social media and other digital platforms has given young people new tools to mobilize, organize, and amplify their voices. These platforms have become crucial in circumventing state-controlled media and reaching a global audience. As a result, youth protests in Africa are no longer confined to the streets. They have become a powerful online movement that transcends national borders. One of the most significant examples of youth protests shaping Africa's political landscape is the EndSARS movement in Nigeria. What started as a protest against police brutality quickly evolved into a broader movement demanding comprehensive reforms in governance, accountability, and justice. The protests, largely driven by young people, forced the Nigerian government to disband the controversial Special Anti-Robbery Squad, SARS, and initiated a national conversation on police reform. The movement also highlighted the power of social media in mobilizing support and bringing international attention to the cause. Despite facing violent crackdowns, the resilience of the protesters demonstrated the determination of Nigeria's youth to fight for their rights and demand a better future. Similarly, in Sudan, youth protests played a central role in the ousting of longtime dictator Omar al-Bashir in 2019. The Sudanese revolution, which began as a protest against rising bread prices, quickly grew into a nationwide movement demanding the end of al-Bashir's 30-year rule. Young people, particularly women, were at the forefront of the protests, organizing sit-ins, marches, and strikes that eventually led to the military stepping in and removing al-Bashir from power. The success of the Sudanese revolution underscored the power of youth-led movements in bringing about significant political change. It also highlighted the importance of unity, organization, and persistence in the face of repression. If you're finding this video insightful and want to stay updated on how youth movements are transforming Africa, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Your support helps us continue to explore these important topics and bring more voices to the conversation. In Zimbabwe, the This Flag movement, led by Pastor Evan Mawarire, saw thousands of young Zimbabweans take to the streets to protest against corruption, economic mismanagement, and human rights abuses under President Robert Mugabe's regime. The movement, which began as a social media campaign, quickly gained momentum and forced the government to listen to the demands of the people. Although the protests did not immediately result in Mugabe's removal, they played a crucial role in laying the groundwork for the eventual military intervention that led to his resignation in 2017. The This Flag movement demonstrated the power of peaceful protest and the ability of young people to challenge entrenched political systems. Youth protests are not just about bringing down governments. They are also about demanding accountability and transparency in governance. In South Africa, the Charge of Fees Must Fall movement saw students across the country protest against the high cost of university education. The protests, which began in 2015, led to significant concessions from the government, including a freeze on fee increases and a commitment to addressing the broader issue of access to higher education. The movement also sparked a broader debate on the inequalities in the South African education system and the need for comprehensive reform. The Young Fees Must Fall protests highlighted the power of youth activism in pushing for policy change and ensuring that the voices of young people are heard in the corridors of power. The impact of youth protests in Africa goes beyond individual countries. It is part of a broader trend that is reshaping the continent's political landscape. As more young people become politically active, there is a growing recognition of the need to engage with their concerns and aspirations. Political leaders are increasingly aware that ignoring the voices of the youth is no longer an option. The rise of youth-led movements has also led to a rethinking of traditional forms of political participation. Young people are not just demanding a seat at the table, they are challenging the very structure of the table itself. They are pushing for more inclusive, participatory, and accountable forms of governance that reflect the realities and aspirations of Africa's young population. However, the rise of youth protests in Africa has also been met with significant challenges. Governments across the continent have responded to these movements with a mix of repression and co-optation. In many cases, protests have been met with violent crackdowns, arrests, and intimidation. Governments have also sought to control the narrative by restricting access to social media and other digital platforms. Despite these challenges, Africa's youth have shown remarkable resilience and determination. They have continued to organize, mobilize, and demand change, even in the face of significant adversity. The future of Africa's political landscape will largely be shaped by its youth. As the continent continues to grapple with issues such as unemployment, corruption, inequality, and human rights abuses, the role of young people in demanding and driving change will become even more critical. The energy and creativity of Africa's youth are a powerful force for good, and their protests are a reminder that the future of the continent belongs to them. As youth protests continue to grow in strength and influence, it is essential for governments and political leaders to listen and engage with the concerns of young people. The challenges facing Africa's youth are significant, but so too is their potential to bring about positive change. By embracing the energy and aspirations of its young population, Africa has the opportunity to build a more inclusive, democratic, and prosperous future for all its people. Youth protests are not just a reaction to the failures of governance. They are a proactive force that is reshaping Africa's political landscape. They are a testament to the power of young people to challenge the status quo and demand a better future. As Africa's youth continue to rise and make their voices heard, the continent's political landscape will be transformed in ways that reflect the hopes and aspirations of its young population. The question is not whether youth protests will shape Africa's future, but how they will do so. And as we look to the future, one thing is clear. Africa's youth are not just the leaders of tomorrow, they are the change makers of today. If you believe in the power of youth to shape a better future for Africa, make sure to share this video with others who care about the continent's progress. Let's keep the conversation going and ensure that the voices of Africa's youth continue to be heard.